So hello and welcome to the review of the Belgian Grand Prix. Formula One is back after the summer long break, but before we go into it, really, the race this weekend wasn't really the true story, and I feel like it would be wrong for us to dive straight into what happened in the race when we're all still thinking about the F2 race and the tragedy that happened with Anthoine Hubert and of course Carrera, who's still in hospital, so we obviously wish him the best. But the kind of cast a real shadow over the event, and as much as we talk about what a dangerous sport it is, it kind of really brings into perspective when something like this happened, and it's still a shock.
Yeah, I mean, like, first of all, hi, and the entire weekend in a way was somber. I mean, I can't really say that anybody was able to enjoy the full race weekend. Even the winner, Charles Leclerc, he was like quite downbeat after winning, and Hubert is no longer with us, and one of the brighter prospects in F2 this year, certainly a contender for an F1 seat next year if things had gone according to plan. But I just hope that Juan Manuel Correa doesn't put too much of a blame on himself, because in these situations you kind of put the blame on yourself, because he's the one who crashed into Hubert, which ultimately resulted in the unfortunate circumstances. So yeah, I really do hope that Correa doesn't put too much on himself and he can get along well with his life.
Yeah, I think so. It's just it's just one of those things happened, never intentional. No blame at all to Carrera. It's just one of these things. It's just a shock, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's just circumstance. I mean, it's just made one thing very clear, that it doesn't matter how safe you make a car or how much upgrades in your safety that you make. There is always a chance that something like this might happen. While it's not ideal and it doesn't happen too often, it might happen and it doesn't come with a warning.
Yeah, so motorsport in general has come a long way, but a weekend like this shows you probably will never get there where it is completely safe, and it's just obviously we've had now two in a couple of years now, with George Bianchi as well. So it's just kind of stark reminder to those people where we get a bit complacent that we thought those days have been left behind. We can always do more, and we can never truly eliminate it from the sport.
Yeah. And moving on to the brighter parts of the weekend, because there were some. Feels kind of strange, to be honest. Like for every 20 of those races in Formula One, I think every one of the 20 deserve a huge amount of credit for actually coming out the next day and doing the same thing that somebody passed away doing the previous day.
Yeah, I think so. And obviously in that sense, it was fitting, really, that Charles Leclerc went this weekend and claimed his first ever victory in F1. And this is the guy who just dealt with so much in his career already. When he was in F2 looking to break through, his father died, and the same weekend goes out and wins the race. Obviously, Jules Bianchi, which is godfather, lost him, and Hubert himself was a good friend of Leclerc, and they raced together in junior formula, and yet they were friends. So this is a guy that's already dealt with so much loss in his career and his young life so far, and to have this weekend kind of the bittersweet emotions. In some ways, perhaps it was the right winner that it was this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, you can say that at the end of the weekend, I guess, apart from the unfortunate circumstances, nobody was actually sad at the end, because everybody believed that, Charles Leclerc was a worthy winner. And he probably deserved it. It was a long time coming, to be honest. But finally he got it, and it was very fitting in the way that it came. But so moving on to the race now properly. So Charles Leclerc for the victory. Ferrari did look strong throughout the weekend, and Leclerc throughout the weekend did appear to be the better driver. But then on the Sunday that mattered, Leclerc was the one who pretty convincingly delivered, and like outright he just beat Vettel.
Yeah, it's strange one. Obviously, they're both. Vettel just didn't really ever seemed to have the pace. Once Leclerc got off the line, well, that was him gone, and Vettel seemed to struggle with his tyres a lot more. Seemed to have like a minor lock up towards the start. I'm not sure how much that really affected his tyres, or that meant he wrecked the whole set. It didn't seem too major, but yeah, he just couldn't make the tyres last and had to go in for the extra stop. And while that did get him out ahead of Leclerc, there was just no answer because Leclerc pitted much later, was able to storm back past again, and obviously Ferrari were sensible in letting him get by, which which you can't say Ferrari have always been the best at, but they choreographed it. they got it right this time, and yeah, I'm sure for the Charles Leclerc fans, it was a little bit of satisfaction there seeing in the end. Leclerc does still owe his victory to Vettel, though, in the fact that Vettel was kind of used as a roadblock for Lewis Hamilton. Because you got to say, if Hamilton gets past Vettel, 2 or so laps sooner, you've got. If you look at how the race ended, you've got to say maybe he goes on to win.
Yeah, and just an interesting question. I want your view on this. That if Ferrari had Kimi Raikkonen in that car instead of Charles Leclerc, do you think Ferrari would have got the win this weekend?
Potentially not. I don't. I'm not sure. Kimi had the outright pace that Leclerc does. I've got to say, I feel like Vettel was comfortably the better driver than Kimi Raikkonen. Although they often dictate circumstances, but like it's not as if Raikkonen was out qualifying Vettel and was constantly pushing Vettel in the races. Raikkonen was kind of used to help Vettel when he could, but at the same time there was never any situation where Kimi was just setting the pace and then Vettel had to kind of catch up. It was always Vettel leading, so I think Leclerc is kind of a big step up from Vettel. When would Kimi have maybe got into the same situation of getting pole, leading comfortably? Potentially not.
Yeah, and for Charles Leclerc, or at least Sebastian Vettel fans, the tables have turned since last year. Yeah, so that brings us to the people who completed the podium. Lewis Hamilton almost got the win. Maybe a couple of more laps he would have. But yeah, this is not Hungary. And he didn't get the win in the end. Valtteri Bottas came in third. A good weekend for Mercedes as a whole. But yeah, Ferrari were the better team on this weekend, weren't they?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm sure a team like Mercedes isn't going to look back on a weekend of a 2-3 as a massive success, but it was kind of a damaging limitation weekend. It was a Ferrari were the stronger team all weekend. Obviously, down the Kemmel Straight, Ferrari straight line advantage, was just kept them ahead, and it was such a difficulty for Mercedes to overtake. You had Hamilton coming on the radio saying, "Oh, Vettel was not that fast," and what. And while that was true, he still couldn't get past. It was still a challenge to get by just because the straight line speed advantage Ferrari had. So, yeah, Mercedes, did well to kind of jump Vettel and keep him behind. But yeah, jumping both of them was a bit of a tall order for Hamilton. Obviously, in the end, didn't quite get there. But yeah, I've mentioned it before. But yeah, kind of you have to pay credit to Ferrari's victory to the kind of the teamwork between the drivers. If Sebastian Vettel, deliberately. I'm sure Sebastian Vettel could have come in for tyres and would have wanted to come in for tyres a lot earlier, but he did his job for the team. He made sure he held Hamilton behind him as long as he could, as long as physically was possible, and then to say even those 2 laps have probably given Charles Leclerc the race lead, or left him in a situation where he's not actually defended the lead. Because obviously Hamilton, in an extra lap, Hamilton would have caught him. He still would have liked to overtake him. But you know what I mean? Like it's made it so that Leclerc didn't have to defend his lead. Hamilton closed him down, but ran out of time in the end.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, one thing that is very clear is that even if Sebastian has I would say partially lost his racecraft in pressure situations, especially with the number of mistakes since last season, but he's certainly useful as a rear gunner. That's clear from this race.
I think so. Yeah, no, it was good to see. Obviously, he played the team game, and when Ferrari had the season they did, that was the right thing to do. Vettel wasn't sensible for Vettel to be honest. Vettel was doomed to 4th place. Vettel Vettel would have known he couldn't have got anything more than fourth. So to not help the team get the win, because it's not just Charles getting a win, it's the team getting the first win of the season. And
Yeah.
we're in the second half of the season now. It's been a really difficult season for Ferrari. So for him to kind of do his team job was what you need there.
Yeah, exactly. So now we come to the people who finished outside top four. Vettel finished P4 in the end and got the fastest lap as well. So before we mention the man who actually finished fifth, we are going to discuss the man who was actually in fifth place for 43 out of the
Uh,
44 laps.
uh,
Lando Norris, what a performance by this guy. Fittingly, I think he got the driver of the day as well. But yeah, what a drive from Norris, and such a shame. I'm going to let you do the talking on this since it's Norris.
I am so heartbroken. Like it was the scene, when the leaders were coming over the line to start the final lap, and you just see that orange car parked up on the corner. Oh, I was so disappointed. My heart just sat. I mean, all my excitement, everything. Oh, was Hamilton going to close him down? Just went for that last lap. So I just saw Lando parked up on the side. Yeah, that was. It was just tragic. We've talked before on a number of occasions how the drivers' championship doesn't do Lando any justice, and how he's had some points taken away from him, and he's a lot closer to Carlos Sainz than it would have you believe. And this is just another example. That was nailed on fifth place. At the start, kind of bit of chaos at the start, but he kind of positioned his car wisely, made it through there, got himself into fifth place, and just held it all the time. Was never in any trouble. It was one of those kind of nice, comfortable drives where he wasn't in too much danger from behind. Didn't have the pace to catch up front, and just kind of held position, did everything that could be expected of him. And then once again the cars let him down in a crucial moment, and he's missed out on a handful of points, and I'm really, really disappointed for him. It's one of those days, isn't it, which happen in racing. But it's tough, and I'm sure he feels it.
Yeah, I mean, even the viewers felt it, I think, most of them, because I think everybody was unhappy with the way Norris's race ended. But I think that gave the opportunity to Alex Albon to finish in the top five, and boy, did he deliver. So we come to Red Bull's new driver who actually finished P5, and superb race from him, starting 17th, I guess, and in the process of overtaking Sainz, who stalled on the grid. A couple of cars from behind passed him as well. So, in effect, he made it to fifth place from the back of the grid, pretty much. So, what did you think about Albon's first race in Red Bull? It wasn't as impressive as Max's first race in a Red Bull, but it was pretty impressive.
Not quite Max level, but I mean, if you look at the start of the race, what the objectives would have been for Albon, it would have just been get as high as possible. And realistically, a fifth place finish would have been the best he could ask for. I mean, because obviously he's in a top car now, but at the same time he was never gonna be able, starting from where he was never gonna be able to overtake any of the top three teams. So getting to the back of the top cars was all he could hope for, and you've got to say he did that. And I'm sure it's a welcome sight for Red Bull, seeing their second driver actually overtake the midfield. We're so used to seeing Gasly stuck in behind the midfield, not be able to get past. So to see Albon kind of carving through as a Red Bull should be able to do was, I'm sure, very expected, but good to see, and it's not what they've been used to seeing. So obviously, a bit of luck. Well, a lot of luck to get the fifth place. Obviously, he was about 6 or 6 seconds behind Lando. Wouldn't have been able to catch him, but did everything he could really. And at the end of the day, he's reached the back of the top three cars. So impressive debut, one that will give him confidence.
Yeah, exactly, and I think a lot of people are happy for Alex Albon, the way that the race panned out. And he couldn't really do much, if you ask me, because he wasn't going to catch Sebastian Vettel or the top guys. So fifth was the maximum that they could get since Max crashed out, and fifth is what they got. So coming to his teammate Max Verstappen, what happened in that first lap?
Yeah, it was it's kind of a shame really, especially because him and Kimi Räikkönen went on to have eventually good races, and yeah, just a bit of collision at the start. I don't know. I don't really want to attribute blame. I'm not really sure it was one's fault over the other. Just seemed to kind of get squeezed at the start, and there was just no room, was there? I don't know what your take on the incident was.
Yeah, I mean, if you ask me personally, I would say it was a racing incident, and you can't really place the blame on one driver. I think to some extent, both of them were at fault, and to some extent, none of them were at fault. You know, I mean, that's what a racing incident is basically. But then, yeah, I think it was a racing incident. But then, subsequently to that, Verstappen, while crashing onto the barriers, almost took out Raikkonen on his way out.
Yeah, kind of double collision there. Yeah, which was a shame because obviously Kimi had such a good qualifying, and I'm sure was on for a good race. But yeah, he kind of had this massive floor damage, and that was kind of race over for the both of them from that point onwards, which was a shame. I don't know.
Yeah,
Would it
because I mean, with the engine that the Alpha has and the kind of pace that he was showing through the weekend, Kimi could have really taken up to Norris had he been in that race. But a shame for every one of us, I think,
yeah,
with Max out before even before making it to his own grandstand that he had, the Orange Army there. He couldn't even make it to his own stand before he crashed out. So yeah, you have to say that a lot of fans at the end, at the location, were pretty unhappy. And yes, Kimi Raikkonen fans would be pretty pissed off at Max Verstappen, to be honest. If you're a Raikkonen fan, you've got to be pissed off at Max for the way it unfolded. And yeah, Max crashing out meant that Albon could actually finish P5. So yeah, he got P5. And even though Max had his first DNF of the season, he's still ahead of both the Ferraris in the championship. He's still P3 and is still within grasping reach of Valtteri Bottas. So do you think it has hurt his chances of getting P2 in the championship? I'm not taking him as a contender for Hamilton, but yeah, P2 in the championship. Do you think it hurt his chances severely in this race?
um, it's not game over by any means. I mean, Red Bull I think always are going to struggle. I think for the first time in quite a few races now, there was kind of a clear pecking order in this race.
Yeah.
It was the Ferrari followed by Mercedes followed by the Red Bulls. I think Valtteri probably would have finished ahead regardless, but obviously he gained more points than he would have done. But of course not. I mean, you look at the points; it's 203 to 181. So what's that? Let me do some quick maths. 23 points. So obviously with the remaining races, very very easy to catch up. And obviously I feel like Max is a much stronger driver than Valtteri. So maybe not as adequate machinery, but yeah, definitely. I'm sure the fight's still on, and Bottas will still have to work very hard for that.
Yeah, no, I mean, the next race is probably the last race of the season where Red Bull will be weaker than the other two front-running teams because they'll have the speed disadvantage and the power disadvantage at Monza. But after that, if you look at the calendar, there isn't really any race I can point out and say that Red Bull will be at a distinct disadvantage. Do you?
No, no, I think you're right. And obviously, if you look at, Max's DNF kind of ended his run of like consistent top five finishes, but certainly you saw last season how he kind of came on strong towards the end of the season, picked up a couple of victories, looked very good. You picked up the victory at kind of Mexico. Looked very good for the victory in Brazil.
Yeah.
Looked strong in Japan. So it's like certainly I'm sure there's some Red Bull favourable tracks coming up, and obviously, yeah, with Ferrari coming back as well, that can definitely make it interesting. Obviously, give Valtteri something more to think about, and and obviously if anything does kind of happen in the championship and Hamilton does kind of start to come under a bit of pressure, Valtteri's then going to have to kind of play the rear gunner role, so they're not going to be looking so much at where we finish in the championship. So, Max kind of does have an advantage there.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's all about the top teams because we've spoken enough about them. But that brings us to the star of the midfield for this race, and the man who eventually finished best of the rest probably didn't deserve it, the best of the rest thing. But yeah, a solid race from Sergio Perez, coming in sixth place, probably his best finish of the season if I can remember correctly, but probably not as well. But yeah, Sergio Perez in sixth place. almost held off Albon and got P5, but yeah, in the end he didn't. Last lap he gave in. But yeah, Sergio Perez had a bright race.
Yeah, as you say, I mean, in the end, kind of the greater pace told from Albon's car, which is to be expected. But yeah, Perez, very solid race. Not kind of too much action involved in that. Just very solid. Started seventh, finished sixth. So absolutely, that's good points for obviously the Racing Point team as well. Not the greatest of seasons so far, and yeah, if Perez kind of put a solid result on the board like that is pleasing, I'm sure. And obviously double points finished as well. Lance Stroll getting that final point in 10th.
Yeah, he was lucky as well. we'll,
Yeah.
we'll come back to that a little bbit later. But since we have spoken about Sergio Perez, we need to mention the man who came seventh. From 19th on the grid all the way to seventh, making up as many places as Albon did, but only in a Toro Rosso, not Red Bull. Gasly would be cursing right now. But Daniel Kvyat was the man who came in seventh. This man just keeps on impressing, man.
Yeah, brilliant race. Toro Rosso just had a great weekend, didn't they? I mean, yeah, started in for the times. Yeah, started in 19th. Was the lead Honda driver for a long time in that race. Quite a few of the laps. But yeah, obviously again another strong performance. Yeah, we asked kind of in our driver mid-season reviews how Kvyat was going to respond to kind of the Red Bull snub, and obviously that's definitely impressive there.
So yeah, Kvyat getting seventh, and yeah, he did finish above Gasly. So that is quite a statement in itself. Maybe he's making himself a contender for the 2020 seat in case Albon doesn't continue to deliver.
Potentially, yeah, absolutely, and obviously, Toro Rosso, if you don't move up to the big Red Bull team, you're not gonna, it's not kind of a long-term team to be in. So he's gonna performances like this are certainly going to keep his options open, and I'm sure if the time does come when he leaves the Red Bull team again, I'm sure plenty of teams. I mean, they certainly can't ignore the pace he's showing so far, can they? I mean, he had a brilliant season so far.
Yeah, and his racecraft has improved so much. I mean, I'm beginning to really admire this man.
Yeah, I mean, he's come back brilliant, hasn't he? Second time around, new man. Very impressive. Very little controversy he's been involved in. So no, it's really impressive to see.
Yeah, so looking at the man who finished P8, do you think that Renault has let the wrong driver go?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes, um, you know, when you're leaving a team, sometimes I think that can bring your best out. We've seen that plenty of times towards the end of the season. Drivers who know they're going to be out of the sport or leaving a certain team kind of pick themselves up and get some good results in. And yeah, I mean, this is kind of one again. I mean, Hulkenberg obviously is, I'm sure, very much wanting to stay in F1 for the new season. So yeah, needs to kind of show other suitors that he is the man and he can perform. Yeah, get it. Never quiet race. I mean, gained an extra position because of Lando Norris, but solid drive. P12 to P8. I say on a weekend where Renault did look strong, but in kind of the practice and the qualifying sessions, but when it came to the race pace, they just weren't really there. Maybe
Yeah,
not as much as
exactly.
they
I
expect.
mean,
Maybe not as much as they or us expected them to be.
yeah, exactly. I mean, Nico Hulkenberg's race was very much like Kimi Raikkonen's races. Like racing in stealth mode. You never really get to see him. He's just there at thereabouts, and at the end, when you check the positions, you see that he's finished in the points, and he's got a good amount of points. So yeah, that was Nico Hulkenberg in P8. So the man who came back to Toro Rosso just a week back. Pretty devastated man for this weekend, especially because along with Leclerc, he was also a very good friend of Anthoine Hubert, coming in P9, strong result, even though he finished behind his teammate eventually. It was quite a strong race from Gasly, and he looked more racy in a Toro Rosso than he did in a Red Bull, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it did. It was as you say, all those factors that it's been especially good race. But he did look racy to get his elbows out and great starting to rotate the midfield. So you're going to put him in a lesser car and he starts doing it. No, it's really interesting. It's a difficult one for Gasly, isn't it? Because his immediate chances of being back in that Red Bull seat are slim to none. So he's just got to do what he can in the Toro Rosso, really. And got it probably in the same situation as Danny Kvyat, seeing if you can get another year out of Toro Rosso, and then beyond that, if anyone else is going to pick him up. So Toro Rosso kind of got a good deal in the sense that they've got two drivers that are really now driving to prove themselves and fighting for their future, so they'll be highly motivated.
Yeah.
And obviously, in general, the car, Toro Rosso had a lot of pace this weekend.
Surprisingly, yes.
Yeah, it's surprising. In a weekend where the Honda powered Red Bull didn't really have that to compete at the front, Toro Rosso were well in the midfield power. Probably were one of the most impressive midfield teams, the most consistent. I mean, certainly, they were the only team that actively had like two drivers fighting for the points.
Apart from Racing Point.
Yeah,
So
I mean, Racing Point kind of had no Stroll, slipped into 10th place at the last second.
Yeah, so that conveniently brings us to Lance Stroll, who probably should have finished P12 in my opinion, because he got lucky with both Giovinazzi and Norris.
Yeah, no, I think so. Yeah, obviously that's something we haven't spoken about yet. Actually, yeah, but Giovinazzi kind of giving away all those points. Yeah, Stroll kind of made up two places they probably shouldn't have done. But yeah, it's another race where he started low on the grid, hasn't he? He started in 16th because he had a poor qualifying, and then he's had to make up the positions. And then yeah, he probably rightly should have been P12. But sometimes in racing you get a bit of luck. You kind of keep your car on the road and things fall into place for you.
Yeah, Lance Stroll has luck not only in the races but off the races as well.
He's got plenty of that to go around, hasn't
he? Yeah. So since we mentioned Giovinazzi, can we discuss Giovinazzi's race very briefly here? Because this looked like the weekend where Giovinazzi might just turn it around, where it wasn't to be.
Yeah, it's very disappointing final result for Giovinazzi. I mean, he's one of the drivers on the grid where he's not got his seat locked down for next season. Still very much driving for his future in the team, and he started 18th on the grid, but had a really good race. Got himself into the points, was P9 on the last lap of the race, and then wasn't particularly under any pressure either, was he? And then just throws it away, and you wonder, is that it for him now? He's always had this kind of reputation as kind of a crash-prone driver, and when he first got those couple of Sauber drives as a substitute, had some big crashes, and was on for only second points of the season, and to kind of make a mistake like that is really killer, and really kind of does bring his future kind of into question. As much as you can praise him for getting into the position, 1 lap from home, getting into an accident like that, kind of of his own accord, you really do start to question him, don't you? You really do wonder, will he be around next season?
Yeah, exactly. I have the same thoughts. In fact, both of us have echoed that he'll probably get replaced at the end of the season. But yeah, I mean, being in the points in the last lap and still not being able to bring it home, you really have to start questioning.
Yeah, I think you do. And obviously for a driver who's already only has 1 point to his name this season, it's even worse. And obviously just an all-round disastrous weekend for Alfa, because I'm sure Kimi Raikkonen would have been a firm candidate for that 5th place position.
Yeah,
I'm sure if everything had gone well, I'm sure he would have finished 5th. I'm sure with the engine in the back. It was a kind of weekend where there was a lot of things going in Alfa's favour, obviously with the Ferrari engine, great qualifying for Kimi. Giovinazzi had a storming race, but in the end they've come away with it with no points. So that'll be really disappointing.
Yeah, just like Germany. So the man who was classified 11th is Lando Norris, but then yeah, we've already discussed how unlucky he was in this race. So following him, we have Kevin Magnussen in 12th and Romain Grosjean in 13th. The Haas boys, they just kept going back and kept going back and kept going back, which has been the story of the season so far, to be honest. The Haas boys, do you I mean, If you're a driver out of a seat like Nico Hülkenberg is right now, do you really fancy Haas?
Well, I mean, I get your question. It's a good question in the sense that they're a team not in a good place, are they?
Mm.
Consistently, they consistently qualify well. Magnussen's had some very, very stellar qualifyings, and they do often kind of get towards the top 10, but in the race they just have no pace, and it just seems like these 2019 tyres and Haas just don't seem to agree with each other. In the races they kind of always fall back, and it's just with Hulkenberg. But realistically, they probably are his best option. Unless something were to happen in the Red Bull seat would be to come available. But even then, when was the last time Red Bull appointed a driver who wasn't in the Red Bull Academy? That
Yeah,
would
Mark
be,
Webber.
yeah, exactly. So that would be a stretch. It's not impossible, but it would be something very out of character if they were to pick him. So yeah, realistically, it probably is one of the better seats available on the grid. So, and obviously Haas want to make improvements, and I'm sure we'll be putting a lot of focus on next year's car. But yeah, it's an interesting one for Hulkenberg as well, in the sense that Haas aren't in the best position right now, and obviously he would be joining up with Kevin Magnussen, who their relationship is not the best.
I mean, if Hulkenberg decides to eventually move to Haas, we've got a firecracker on our hands for next season.
Oh, I do hope those cars are able to race next season, because that I would love to see that.
Yeah, exactly. So that was with Haas. Now coming to the man who finished 14th, the man who actually did an entire race with one set of tires, Daniel Ricciardo in 14th. He had to pit in the first lap because of damage or whatever was it. He did pit in the first lap itself, and then put on the medium tires and dragged on till the end of the race. What was that strategy from Renault?
I don't really know. I mean, it's obviously you've got to try something a bit different when your strategy's been thrown off so much by just having to pit in the first lap. But yeah, it's for them where you feel like he was never going to get a chance, was he? I mean, it's like it's a brilliant effort to make the tyres last that long, but when you go on that strategy, you kind of give up scoring points, because I mean that's certainly not the fastest way around the track. Nursing a set of medium tyres for 43 laps.
Around Spa.
Around Spa, the longest lap of the year. Could they have kind of thrown something up, maybe tried a two-stop? I'd have liked to have seen that. I'd have liked them to just try something. Didn't, instead of just going for, oh, well, this will get us to the end. Won't, nothing will really happen, we'll get to the end here. Like, it's kind of like, well, what's the point? Like,
Yeah,
if,
exactly.
like, you've just used an engine for an entire race where you're just never ever going to compete with the strategy you're on. So it's like, well, what really was the point of sending him out to just go round at that pace? And you look at his kind of fastest lap of the race, it was a 1 minute 50.4, which is seconds slower than even the Williams. So he was just
uh,
completely out at the back doing his own thing. It's like, well, he might as well have retired and they'd been in a better position, really. Because I mean, now all his gearbox and his all engine parts have all done an extra race for basically nothing. So yeah, it was a bit of a shame to see. But yeah, I'd have liked to have seen Renault do something a bit more proactive.
yeah, exactly my point. And so, yeah, that was Daniel Ricciardo, who was probably the only man in the grid to do an entire race with one set of tires, as we mentioned. So, yeah, that brings us to the Williams boys, with Kimi Raikkonen sandwiched between them. But yeah, Kimi finished 16th at the end. But if he didn't have damage on the first lap, I probably would have voted him for finishing sixth. But yeah, that's a story for another day. But
Well, I
Williams
think it would have been
15th,
fifth, to be
yeah.
honest. I think it would have been fifth. I don't think Albon. I don't think Albon would have caught the fifth place driver if what happened to Lando wouldn't have happened. So yeah, potentially I think
Yeah,
he would have been a very
yeah.
good success.
Yeah, exactly. No, so Williams 15th and 17th, the only team still this season to finish every single race with both cars, but nothing really apart from that. But yeah, so are Williams making progress is still, Ben?
This is always going to be a difficult one. I mean, Russell. I think Russell kind of alluded to himself that the pace they showed in Hungary was very much difficult to overtake, and he kind of said when drivers have the chance to over overtake, kind of really put the power down, maybe it won't look as close as it actually is, and I think that's kind of shown out. I mean, kind of like a power track like this, Williams
Mm-hmm.
were never really gonna have any say. Yeah, it was kind of like one of the kind of stranger moments, kind of maybe sad, was seeing afterwards, kind of when F1 released all these onboard clips, and you kind of see Kimi Raikkonen complaining about massive flaw. He's just been hit by Verstappen. He's coming back onto the track. He's got massive damage on the car, floor damage. He's on the radio saying, "Oh, this car has, got massive floor
Yeah, I
damage.
can't go anywhere with this.
I can't go anywhere with this car." But while he's saying that, he's steaming past the Williams on the straight. Like, in the same instant, he's complaining his car's ruined and he can't go anywhere. He's storming past the Williams car. So like that
And it's not like he's in a Ferrari, is he?
yeah, exactly. And for limping Alpha, he's racing past the Williams. That is a serious that is a serious kind of reminder where Williams are.
Yeah, exactly. And well, as I said, I mean, I have mentioned this before. That talking about Williams gets me depressed, and I'm already depressed enough, so we don't need that. But yeah, so coming to the non-finishers, we had three of them: Antonio Giovinazzi, who we discussed already, Max Verstappen, and Carlos Sainz, who stalled on the grid at the start. So really disappointing weekend for McLaren in the end, who did not score any points, but their fourth place is secure still. But yeah, what happened to Sainz?
Yeah, it was just a kind of one of those weekends, really, wasn't it? Obviously he got very, very unlucky in qualifying. Obviously,
Yeah,
he didn't get the job done on his first run, but you can't really hold it against him because he was on a second run, and then it just gets ruined with the red flag. So
yeah,
that was a lot of bad luck, and then the stall. I've not really seen anything about the reasons for that. But yeah, it just nothing went his way really, and it's just I don't think there's a lot he personally did wrong. It's just things didn't work
circumstances.
out.
Yeah,
Yeah, circumstances got in the way, and he's been on a brilliant run, and I'm sure the mid-season break kind of came at the wrong time for him. He was on a brilliant run of fifth place finishes, so I'm sure they'll be better next time out for McLaren. Just
yeah,
a
exactly.
weekend to move on and forget about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, we do see Renault engines having potential problems at Monza as well, just like they did here.
I think so. Yeah, still their weakest constructor on the grid, engine wise.
Yeah, no, so yeah, that was Spa, a pretty somber weekend on a weekend where Charles Leclerc got his first ever Formula One win. And yeah, rest in peace, Antoine Hubert. And yeah, that was Spa. And in a few days we will be back with the preview for Monza. Up next, we got an exciting one next time.
Really can't wait. Well, let's see you there.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.